Hard at hockey, welcome in from across the country. It is June 30th, and we have put a pretty little bow and wrapped up what has been one of the best seasons of all time, at least in my experience. The Florida Panthers go on to win Game 7 against the Edmonton Oilers in pretty startling fashion. The blue line that we mentioned early on in the playoffs is what lifted them to the cup, and quite frankly, it was pretty impressive, just the performance and how they were able to lock things down. Offensively, didn't generate a whole lot compared to Edmonton's chances, but again, they kept the Oilers outside of the house. And I'm here as always with Grant Miller from Columbus, Ohio. Been a nice little week here as free agent frenzy, as I'm going to call it, starting to heat up. And the Columbus Blue Jackets certainly made some waves on the market that I'm sure Grant's going to be happy about.
Yeah, that Game 7 on Monday already feels like a month ago. Like before we were recording here, I was like, have we talked since that? Like since that game happened? Like so much is already moving in the world of hockey, which we've become accustomed to these days. It never really stops, which there's some good and bad to that. I kind of touched on last week, so we won't have to harp on that. But congrats to the Panthers. Congrats to Sergei Bobrovsky. GM Bill Zito, he was in the front office with a career for a long time. And one of my personal favorites here, Kevin Stenlund, who was with the Jackets, had long hair, wore number 11. All cup winners. So congrats to those guys. Congrats to the whole team. All-time procrastination champions right there. Just they won 3 games and they said, we'll get around to that 4th one eventually. And right at the deadline, they nailed it. So it was fun. It was a really fun playoff. What you're saying is right. One of the most exciting seasons we've had. And it looks like we're already just into the next year, basically, with free agency and the draft. So we're ready to go.
It's a great way to close the book, close the chapter. And now the one team's going to walk off with the cup and everyone's going to have their day with it in historic fashion, which leads us to our question for the week to our fans. What would you do with the cup for a day? I got to think about this one. Get back to me at the end of the episode, because obviously a timeless tradition that players look forward to, most never experience. So for those lucky few who get to, better make it count. Our fan shout out of the week is going to go to Pat Cerisi of Louisville, Kentucky. That is my grandma, and she gave us some big shout outs this week on Facebook. Really appreciate that. Yeah. She's up and coming in the hockey scene. So love Nanny, and hopefully we can get her an Avs jersey going into next season. We'll see how that looks. So, Grant, I got a fun history lesson for you today. This history
I'm ready.
The Cup is brought to you by the Labrador Retriever Club. As always, the Labrador Retriever Club maintains a special fund for emergency care of labs who are abandoned across the country. Reach out today at thelabradorclub.com. What better way to enjoy the Stanley Cup in all its glory than with your new best friend? Go Labradors. And I am proud to officially announce that Hard Hat Hockey has its mascot. We just adopted 1-year-old yellow Labrador, and we named her Ella. And she is
that's a great name.
Just the light of our life, and has taken our house by storm, and I feel like a dad, and I love it.
They'll run the house for at least a year.
Yeah. She makes the presence known.
2 puppies right now. Yeah. No, but they're fun. It's like, you're right. You feel like a dad, and then you talk to someone who actually has like kids, and you're like, okay, it's not that serious.
Exactly.
But it still is like, it's fun. And, you spend a little time with them, and they end up having their own personality. I mean, who doesn't like dogs?
We're going to do an official picture on social media too for Hard Hat Hockey. So the whole world knows the mascot
Excited to hear
is Ella Bell Dunn. So Grant, in 2001, the Stanley Cup champion won by the Colorado Avalanche. Until requesting a trade on March 6, 2000, Ray Bourque had played his entire career with the Boston Bruins. The 7th game of the 2001 finals was the last of Bourque's 22-year NHL career. Though Bourque reached the Stanley Cup finals twice with the Bruins in 88 and 90, the Bruins fell both times to the Edmonton Oilers, and Bourque had never been on a cup-winning team until joining the Colorado Avalanche that year. When Captain Joe Sakic received the trophy, he did not hoist it, but instead immediately handed it to Bourque for him to hoist. A very famous moment in Stanley Cup history. And then this one for you. In what would be Wayne Gretzky's final cup win and final game as a member of the Edmonton Oilers, he gathered his teammates, coaches, trainers, and others, part of the organization for the Oilers, to join at center ice for an impromptu team photo. And since then, the team photo has kind of become somewhat of a staple when celebrating with the cup on the ice. So fun.
That's interesting. I didn't know that last bit. I didn't know that was like such a new concept.
Yeah, I know. And now every year they do it. So it's interesting what sticks and what doesn't over the years. So Grant got a fun little activity for you today before we really dive into all of our analysis. In honor of 4th of July, which go USA, everyone, I hope you celebrate the 4th of July. Have a good time, little barbecue, little fireworks with the family, practice firework safety. Stay away.
Please.
Keep them away from the kids.
Don't know what you're doing. Don't do it.
Yeah, maybe just skip out. Maybe we'll just stick to some sparkles.
Yeah, trust the pros. You don't get a medal for like risking it with like cakes and Roman candles and launchers. You don't get like, a trophy for that.
Exactly.
So just, trust the pros.
Stay safe, ladies and gentlemen. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to call this Hockey Team Kaboom. Here's how this is going to work, Grant. I've got some fireworks here, some traditional fireworks that I'm going to read the description to you, and then you're going to match that firework with what team you think relates to that firework in the league. Okay?
Okay. All right.
Don't overthink it. Yeah, don't overthink it. So the first one I got for you is called the Evil Priest. Evil Priest is known for vibrant colors pleasing to the eye among constant crackles. It goes for a lengthy duration, definitely worth your buck. Evil Priest. What team?
Ooh, colors, goes a long time.
Constant crackles.
Feels like the Caps.
Okay.
A long time.
Okay. Kind of the cap friendly deal.
Well, in the cracks for some reason that makes me think of like old age. Oh, they're kind of breaking down. You can kind of hear Father Time knock on the door.
Okay.
Priest. Yeah. The CEO of the Jackets last name is Priest, so that's where my mind went originally, but I didn't want to go. Well, I didn't want this all to be Columbus.
Okay, next one on Hockey Team Kaboom. One bad granny, described as vibrant, colorful fish with gold and silver willows, finishes with tons of crackle.
Gold and silver, that's got to be the Vegas Golden Knights.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that makes the move. Old people love Vegas.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Okay, here we go. This one's called Excalibur. Firework called Excalibur sounds dangerous. Comes in a 24 pack, breaks over 250 feet high and over 200 feet wide. So big presence.
So big presence, Excalibur. Makes me think of the Canes. They're going to overwhelm you. They're huge. It sounds like a 24 pack. That sounds like a lot of shots. They're getting a lot of shots on net. That's the Canes.
That's the Canes. Okay. I would agree with that. All right. The last one, I'm going to add a fourth here. Just your standard.
Okay.
Good.
I'm rolling. I feel hot.
Good traditional sparkler. Kids, you get a sparkler, you can write your name. You can draw a picture, sparkler in the sky. I think we all, at one point or another in our childhood, have probably have some experience with a good American sparkler.
That reminds me of the Detroit Red Wings. That's a classic. That's original six. Not terribly exciting, but it has its place.
Yeah. Folks, from Roseville, California, you just heard the first ever hard hat hockey Team Kaboom. We'll be sure
that was fun. I like metaphors. That really did appeal. It took a little bit to get going, but that was a lot of fun.
All right, Grant, all aboard. Put on your seatbelt. Choo-choo. Train's coming through. The Transaction train station is rolling down the track. We'll kick it off. Let's just go to Denver really quick. We won't harp on it long. I don't want to be the Abs homer here, but Casey Mittelstadt signed 3 years by $5.75 million. What appears to be a bridge deal for what I think Joe Sakic's going to deem the second line center for long term. And for a second line center at this value, that's a great deal. Great financial workings by Sakic and Chris McFarland. And I think Casey Mittelstadt has a very high ceiling that he is just now tapped into, and I'm excited to see it grow. So,
I know I could look it up, but I'm just going to ask you, how old is Casey?
25, 26.
Okay. So he's still, like you said, bridge deal.
Yeah. Right in the prime. I honestly expected this to be more. I think on an open market, a second line center would very much so demand more than 5.75. So this is good value. And I think Casey's going to really flourish in his new role. Moving on, Winnipeg Jets, Dylan DeMello signed with Winnipeg, 4 years by $4.9 million, locking up a little blue line depth there. Dylan had a strong playoff performance despite the Jets losing in round one. I like this deal. I like this deal for the Jets.
Yeah, listen, there's some of these that it's going to be tough to get too much content out of, if we're going to be honest. But yeah, he fits the profile of the Jets. I mean, they're like a tough team to play against, but I'm never going to like pick them to win the cup, you know, in the next couple of years, probably. I don't know. I say that now they're going to win it, but yeah, no, good for him. It's it's a good deal. Winnipeg's, they're going to need a little more though. But you know, if you can get the blue line set up, by all means,
it's a start. It's certainly a start. This is that time, the week leading up before July 1, where every team has that exclusive window to sign their guys. And today there seems to be a lot of panic on social media for a lot of big names that haven't been signed yet.
Yeah, let's put some context to this. We are recording Sunday, June 30th. It is we started at 4 p.m. Eastern. Qualifying offers are due at 5. So that's what we're seeing right now. And we should see some fireworks, Trent, hopefully in the next couple of days with these guys that are not tendered or not offered.
Would you say fireworks like hockey team Kaboom?
Exactly what I was going for.
Okay. Yes. Utah Hockey Watch signs local bad boy Liam O'Brien. Liam O'Brien was a fan favorite in Arizona, now going to go to Salt Lake City, obviously, with that transition.
That's a big PR move. By Utah, keeping the muscle around. They know that helps at the beginning.
Typically, you see bigger names kind of drop first, but Liam was signed early in the week, 3 years by $1 million. You usually don't see those small contracts drop until later because teams like to essentially know what they have. So that tells you how much they value Liam, and he's going to be a big part of that team moving forward. And
tells you what their priority.
Well, we're going to be discussing a lot of Utah in this episode. They were busy over the last week. They are big players on the train. Okay, the Canucks also very busy. Vancouver signed Dakota Joshua, 4 years by $3.25 million. Love this deal. Tyler Myers, 3 years by $3 million. Nikita Zadorov, notably, is hitting the open market, 4 goals and 4 assists. And then we also saw Sam Lafferty go the other way in a trade with Chicago. So busy moves here. I wonder if today we don't see some announcement about Elias Lindholm and his future, because Zadorov is walking and going to free agency. That tells me maybe there is a little space here that they're going to be willing to negotiate with Elias Lindholm, who's going to be demanding obviously a significant raise. So we'll see how that plays out.
Breathing room, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah. And
the Canucks are a team that need to be busy. So this doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, they need to be busy. They need to capitalize. And Rick Tocchet, he's got a little bit of taste, a little blood in the water, and I think they want, go even farther next year. The Nashville Predators, in a shocking move to me, signed UC Saros, 8 years, $7.74 million. I didn't see this coming, frankly. I thought that space could have been used elsewhere, and they've got a lot of good goaltending prospects. So I didn't see the value there for them with Barry Trotz's vision for the Predators. I thought they could use a little more scoring, added scoring depth on one of the wings. But hey, who am I to judge Barry Trotz? The man is a genius. So I'm sure this is going to work out for Nashville.
Yeah, I'm not going to question them too much, but yeah, I think we were both pretty shocked by this. It's a big ticket.
Max Domi.
Big number.
Yeah, it is for a goaltender. If there's a goalie in the league that deserves it, he's probably one of 3 or 4. But yeah, it's always, anytime you're going north of $5 million for a goalie, that's a big ask. So,
or north of 5 years.
Or 8 years. That term. He better work out. That's a big commitment. So.
Oh yeah.
Toronto Maple Leafs signed Max Domi for 4 years, $3.75 million.
Max. I liked Max a lot when he was in Columbus. It didn't work out. Weird transition time for the organization. He dude just bounced around, found a spot, found a home in Toronto, it seems like.
Yeah, it's a good move.
I'll give Toronto a lot of shit. Sorry to cut you off. I'll give Toronto a lot of shit. Max Domi is fine. It's good for him. Good. Shout out to Max Domi, the Domi family, and the Toronto Maple Leafs.
He's certainly far from the problem, for the Toronto Maple Leafs moving forward. So I like the signing.
And they're not going to miss that 3.25. That's not going to stop them from making other bigger moves.
Let's just talk about this right now while we're bringing up Toronto. So earlier this week, hot rumor coming out of Toronto that Mitch Marner had been moved to Utah nameless hockey team, the new team that formerly known as the Arizona Coyotes. Turns out the rumor was false, and Craig Berube, newly hired head coach, goes on to comment about Mitch Marner. He's a character guy. He's a great person, obviously a great player. I'm looking forward to coaching him. Didn't really see that coming. Frankly, I thought
that doesn't leave much space for future speculation. So that's a good job by the new guy behind the bench there.
I'm sensing a little BS factor here. I still think there's a chance he's on the move tomorrow. Frankly, I don't know. Something's behind it.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I feel a lot of things are going to be thrown at the wall, like transaction wise and rumors wise. So it's like, you got to have your guard up with everything. But I'm glad that Berube came out and was like, listen, I want to see what this guy's got. I'm in charge now. You know?
Sure.
Like maybe he's got a different plan. Who knows?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, we'll just see, new head coach, different vision. Maybe he does get along with Marner. I know they were caught a viral picture earlier this summer going out to eat together. So clearly trying to build some relationships as soon as he got to town. So we'll see. I don't know. The Toronto fan base and management is just so fickle. So, I can only see them doing something behind the scenes, I guess.
Sure.
You ready to park the train?
Yeah, let's do it.
The train has been parked, everybody. Time to get out your cleaning mechanisms, be it your vacuum, duster, Swiffer. Frankly, I'm a big fan of just a good Clorox wipe. Does the job very consistent and multi-purpose. Does a really nice job on tile and countertops of that nature. So
yeah, if you're a young guy moving into your first apartment after college, get a bunch of those.
Yeah,
Clorox. Even if it's multi-purpose.
They go a long way.
Yeah.
NHL housekeeping is here, and it's here to stay. We have a lot to talk about. First off, Derek Brassard retires. Brassard played for multiple different teams. I think probably most remembered for the New York Rangers. Spent some time with the Coyotes. He was on the Avs for a little bit. A lot of teams.
He's a jacket. I think he played the most games in Columbus, though.
Yeah,
over important games.
He's a bit of an Iron Man. Over 1,000 games played, 540.
He's been in the league forever, yeah.
And he's a guy who will be missed. He was a character guy. That's why he was sought after. Seemed like every single year on the trade deadline as a guy that teams wanted to add for playoff runs. So
think about how good you have to be to exist in the NHL across that time period. How different the game has gotten over Brassard's career.
I mean,
and he was kind of a mainstay. 1,000 games, and it was when he came in 06, 07. The game was still a little slow. The defenders were twin tower type of guys. The really best teams of the league had one really good puck moving defenseman and maybe some guy who could bang it on a power play. But by and large, it was all defensive focused. And then that was kind of similar with the center position. You had if you were really good, one just stud, playmaking defender that could do it all. And then hopefully you got somebody who maybe can park in front of the net and control things down low. And Brassard just saw the game evolve from that to what we have now, which is speed as a huge asset, a lot of back and forth. We know what's happening, but it's crazy. And I remember when he came to Columbus, he was really good here. It just, the rest of the organization wasn't in a position that we could value him. We had to move on. But him and Voracek there for a little bit, man, felt like we had the future because they were drafted around the same time. So
yeah,
shout out to Derek Brassard, man. He was great.
I know he ended his career as kind of a staple fourth line center, but there was a time there when he was a notable first line center and very sought after. So
stayed healthy, took care of his body.
Yeah.
I mean,
tough dude too. I mean, anytime you're playing over 1,000 games, that takes some grit. So good for Mr. Brassard. We'll miss him. Okay, Grant, Seabiscuit run draft results. Talk to me.
Yeah, so we did a really good deep dive. If I say it was good, I think we could toot our own horn. I thought we did the draft justice. first pick, we kind of knew that was going to be the case. Celebrini, who I didn't know a lot about, and then really just like watched a ton of his highlights. And now I'm a big Celebrini guy. And I think it's a shame that people were downplaying this draft just because it followed what we had last year. But I think he's a great kid. Shout out to him. And then we knew the draft was going to start with the second pick, whatever Chicago did. And they went defenseman. They went with Levashnanov or Timmy. I can't do it. I butchered it. We know what I'm talking about. He's a big body, really good pick. Blackhawks. We kind of thought it was going to be doing him and Demidov, and they went with the blue line. Which, if you're going to start building a team from the ground up, and you already have Bedard, shore up that blue line. That makes a lot of sense. And then, shout out to the Ducks, who they Beckett Sinecki, which was kind of a surprise pick on my mind, but it allowed, the order's wrong, the Ducks, right?
Yes. Yeah, Ducks.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that made the way for the Jackets. This is all leading for me to be able to talk about the Jackets with Caden Lindstrom, who, if you listened to the podcast last weekend, was the kid I wanted out of Medicine Hat. Big center for the Medicine Hat Tigers. Had a really good season last year. Unfortunately, cut short by kind of a gnarly back injury, which has a lot of folks in Columbus nervous, which I totally understand being nervous about that. And he's got some eligibility to stay in juniors and stay healthy and grow and develop. And I think it's a great move. The Jackets do a really good job of doing kind of like draft viewing and engagement in the community. They're at this bar, Pens, the big draft party. Adam Fantelli, last year's pick, was like with the fans hanging out, which is, I think it's just awesome. He ended up like FaceTiming Caden at the event, and everyone seems like really excited about this. I'm excited because he's just a profile of player that we haven't gotten in Columbus in a few years, which this goes to show where Don Waddle and how Don Waddle wants to build this team.
All of a sudden, the Jackets have a very impressive depth at the center position, at least for prospects. They've got quite the pipeline built up that is going to turn out into, I think, successful results in the coming years. So that's exciting.
Yeah. They also got a defender out of Braden, Charlie Ellick, who just, everything I saw is just like a hard-nosed guy. Like, might not be a top 2 guy, but definitely someone you want to have on your team. Tough to play against is everything I've seen from him. So I think both those guys will play another year in juniors. It's no rush right now in Columbus, honestly.
You make a good point about Chicago too. If you're trying to build a team, they probably made the smart decision drafting what is effectively the best defenseman, I think, was in the draft. I gotta say, from a fan perspective, I was really looking forward to them drafting Bedard, a wingman, to play on his flank. Demidov would have been fireworks.
Yeah.
So, but you're right. The state top tier defensemen are hard to come by. And if you don't draft them, you got to acquire them in, other means later down the line. And that gets expensive, as we know. So
it gets very expensive. And if you think you got a guy, you got to give it a shot.
Yeah, absolutely.
So many in every draft. So yeah, I think good move. Another guy I just really like seeing was pick out of Utah. I don't want to butcher his name. Jake Guentzel. Cool moment. Also, the whole draft was really cool. Just in the Sphere in Vegas. I think the NHL did a great job of just making it like an event. Drafts are hard. I mean, even like the NFL drafts, like whatever, it's the NFL. They print money and can just, you can slap the shield on anything and a million people will show up. NHL kind of has to get creative and, try different things to get eyeballs, which leads to some questionable things, but sometimes it leads to really cool things like the draft in the Sphere. So I had a great time watching. As these guys start playing and we get into team previews, we're going to hit on some of these guys. I could have done a full hour on all this, but there's just so much has been happening that I want to kind of just touch on the big hitters and guys we like. And then as we get into team previews, the guys that stand out, we'll get on it.
Yeah, you mentioned TJ Guentzel. I wonder, with just Utah seems to be such an up and coming name right now. They're making huge splashes, big trades. obviously drafting a big name. I wonder if that's a guy who gets an ELC early, inks those three years at that 900K, and has the potential to make the opening night roster. I don't know.
Those are the exciting guys, man. You love seeing those dudes like right out. It's not the right route for everyone. I'm kind of a fan of like letting a guy, develop, but those dudes that just come in day one are so exciting.
Yeah.
And even with how development's progressed and guys have grown up, they stand out.
Absolutely. And for the fans at home, an ELC, I'm referring to an entry-level contract, just in case you didn't know.
Break it down, Trey.
That's a 3-year commitment. They were essentially, teams have 3 years. They'll pay them the league minimum. I think it's $925K, where you're essentially salary cap protected, and you really get high value for guys. If they like storm into the league early, you're only paying them $900,000. That's a good deal. You want that for especially those cap crunch teams. Like anyone in a cup window currently, that's a big deal for teams to capitalize on those 3 years. So yeah, excited to see that. Grant, there was some hardware handed out this weekend, notably my boy.
Big time hardware.
I'm just gonna give him some love. Nathan McKinnon was awarded the Hart Trophy, as I thought, and I thought it was well deserved. The Hart Trophy is voted by the Professional Hockey Writers Association. He also won the Ted Lindsay Award, voted by the NHL Players Association. So clearly some consistency where everyone thought that he was the clear-cut MVP of the league, and this was well deserved. He didn't have one to his name, just had a great year. And I know everyone loves to, make that competition between him and McDavid, and majority would say McDavid is better. And I'm not disagreeing with that, but I will say this. The man is a leader. The man has a Stanley Cup, and this is well deserved. So, and frankly, a Team Canada with Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, and Connor McDavid is kind of terrifying. And the USA defense is going to have to really step up if we're going to stop them from scoring goals.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You nailed it. It's a lot of firepower.
All right, Grant. News out of Boston.
Big news.
Kind of the 1A goalie behind Jeremy Swayman will be a starter, obviously, for any team. That turns out it's going to be the Ottawa Senators. The Bruins trade Linus Ullmark for the 25th overall pick, which turned out to be Dean Letourneau out of St. Andrews College. Good pick. Also, Jonas Korpisalo, goaltender, had
former
a
Jacket.
Rough year for the Senators, which is probably why he's 25% retained. So what does that mean? The Senators are still going to pay for a quarter of his contract. And then Mark Kastelik, not as big of a name, but certainly Bruins looking to acquire some assets here. I don't love this for Boston. Not going to lie. I think they could have.
What about it don't you like?
Well, they could have gotten more. He's a clear-cut number one goalie. The Bruins had a wealth of riches in net this year, and I think that they could have gotten a better return, frankly.
I think they wanted to get it in before the draft. Yeah, I mean, a 25th pick. That's not bad.
It's not bad.
Korpisalo is serviceable backup, which is crazy because like 10 years ago we were talking about this guy as like a future like elite goalie to replace Bob. Eventually, just didn't happen. But yeah, the Sway and Ulmerk, like, I just screwed his name up too. They like loved each other. And I say that like affectionately. Like if you watch Bruins games, like there's just such a vibe and a bond between these guys that they just dipped. But you got to be ruthless in roster construction. If you can get value and assets for a backup goalie, that's about as you have to pull trigger on that. If you can get something for a backup goalie, you do it. But yeah, the internet reaction from this, like if I was a Bruins fan, yeah, I'd be bummed. But that's the name of the game.
Yeah, a lot of these trades too, like obviously we have probably more negative opinions about it, but it's got to play out. And so many of these trades take years to determine who actually won the trade. So, this could very well turn out in Boston's favor. So we'll see.
Sure.
And at the end of the day, if all it does is gives them necessary space to go out and now get a free agent that they want, well, then that's a win for Boston. So
that's true.
Good for them. And they clearly know how to navigate building a successful team year after.
Yeah, they've done it for like 15, 16 years.
Right. It gets to your point.
A lot of evolution.
Yeah, exactly. Grant, news out of Columbus. CBJ's trade Alexander Texier. It's Texier, right?
Yep, Texier.
Texier for a 2025 fourth round pick. I don't hate it. I know when I'm building a franchise on NHL 24, I always go and get this guy because his contract is really high value and his speed rating on the video game is blazing fast. That dude can fly.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. He's pretty fast in real life too, but yeah, I'm not surprised to know that he's a great like video game player. This is the de-Yarmoing of the Jackets roster. Texier was a part of that 2019 team that swept the Lightning. So for that, thank you. Had a great goal in game 4 of that series. He's a good player, man. I mean, he's got a lot of skills. Play his center if you need him. He's great at a shootout if you value that. If you see that as something like, it helps to have guys that can put the puck in the net on his one-on-ones. You don't want to go into a shootout thinking you've already lost just before it starts. If Texier is on your side, you feel like you got a shot at least to get one in the net because he's pretty good. He's fun to have on your team, but if your team's losing, if you're not good, a guy like this just really isn't, part of the plan. So.
Yeah, the Jackets have definitely made some upgrades. And I didn't say it at first. I apologize for everyone out there. It was with the Blues. That's who the trade was with. So you'll see him now in St. Louis.
Okay, next year's draft, and it wasn't like this year. It wasn't like they flipped him early to get in on something this year. It's definitely a future move.
Fly with me out west, Grant. Let's go to Salt Lake City. Got some good friends from the Salt Lake area. The Kemp family. Utah has traded J.J. Moser, Connor Geeky, 2025 second, 2024 7th round pick for, get this, Mikhail Sergachev from Tampa Bay. And if you're playing NHL bingo at home, I got to tell you, I didn't have this on my card. Wow. Good for Utah. I mean, that is a massive move. And then they go on to acquire John Marino from the New Jersey Devils for the 49th pick this year and a 2025 second from New Jersey. Obviously, Mikhail Sergachev coming over from Tampa Bay. Wow, they had some moves too. But Utah is clearly, I mentioned them earlier with the TJ Iginla draft. They're beefing up. The new ownership wants to win, and that is evident with these moves. Very exciting times. Really looking forward to that first season. Maybe we'll go to a game. Hell, I'm not far. Let's go.
You're not far. No, I'm apprehensive to give Utah too much love just because of the nature of how they moved from Arizona. And that's not anyone's fault in the greater Utah area. It's not the fans' fault, but it's kind of like, it's like, you move a city and all of a sudden you're just like letting it rip. Like, okay, cool. I know it's like new ownership and all that stuff, but like, it's just funny to me. Like how like poorly ran Phoenix was and just being like, this should work out here. And then now it's like slap a new coat of paint on it. And it's like, oh yeah, we have John Marino now.
John Marino, I was very high on him.
I'm a big fan of him. Yeah.
I can't believe the Pittsburgh Penguins let him walk in the trade.
Right out of my mouth. That
was not, in my opinion, not the great move. Not a great move by Pittsburgh. And they probably
it's very unpins-like.
They're probably looking back on that trade with a little bit of regret. That's a guy with a Pittsburgh rebuild that you'd really like to still have. And now him and Mikhail Sergachev are going to be running breakouts together in Salt Lake City, and that's going to be a good-looking blue line. So good for them. Speaking of, let's talk about the franchise. Alex Murillo walks away from the Coyotes franchise. Good riddance. We don't need to harp on this. But effectively what I think is going to happen here is the Coyotes' rights are for sale. It's open season, and they need a new owner. And this, I think, gives better odds for Arizona ever seeing hockey again. If it stayed in this family, I didn't like the road they were going down. And we've talked extensively in previous episodes about how poorly run that whole franchise was, especially those last couple of years. Those fans deserve better. So this is a step in the right direction, a little addition by subtraction.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like you said, we don't need to harp on it, but if hockey is going to exist in Arizona, it was not going to be with Murillo.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we talked about Salt Lake City. Let's talk about who gave them up. Let's talk about Tampa Bay. Wow, some sad times. I think they're clearly making some necessary moves for the salary cap. Still trying to find, capture that lightning in a bottle and maybe make another run here. But what's up?
You say the Tampa Bay Lightning trying to catch?
Yeah, exactly. But wow, so let's talk about it. Mikhail Sergachev obviously going the other way in that trade. He very good longtime defenseman in Tampa. They also they offered $3 million to longtime captain, Hall of Famer, Stanley Cup winner, Steven Stamkos. Steven rejected the $3 million offer, wanting between 4 and 5. And now it has been announced that he is going to free agency. He will not be returning to Tampa Bay. I can't believe they couldn't get it done. We talked about it earlier. This is a guy who, even at his age of 34 years old, he just put up 80 points. How are you going to replace that?
Yeah. He's still really good.
And you couldn't come to an agreement between $4 and $5 million for 80 points? Are you kidding me?
They were trying to he'll take the hometown discount. And he was like, no, obviously, no. He said no. But how do you not?
You hardball your captain? Seriously? I can't believe it.
It must really be against it cap-wise, right? I mean, it must really be that dire.
It must be dire up against the cap, as they also moved Tanner Jeannot to the Los Angeles Kings for a 2025 second-round pick and the 118th pick in this year's draft. That Tanner Jeannot trade, I think it's safe to say at this point, probably an overpayment a year ago, 2 years ago, when they acquired services from Nashville Predators. Tampa gave up an arm and a leg, including a first-round pick, and just moved him out to the West Coast for significantly less. I don't think that worked out the way they planned. Yeah, I don't love it. And if you're a fan of Tampa Bay, a lot of big names going out the door that you've been cheering for almost a decade.
It's the end of an era. I mean, it's like cup tax. It's all just a matter of you can't keep paying these guys, a premium, especially they're winning, but they're not lifting the cup. And most teams aren't lifting the cup. And because of that, there's usually turnover. So it's an end of an era, man. It's weird. I mean, Stamkos not being in Tampa, it's hard to imagine. The same way Kane not being in Chicago is still hard for me to grasp.
It's kind of sad. I mean, I know we're not huge, not huge Bolts guys, but still, you just know when you think of Tampa, you think of Steven Stamkos.
100%. Yeah. And it's weird. I don't know. I don't know how to, you're right. I'm not a huge, but I see what he's done there, and I will always associate him with Tampa. So it'll be interesting to see where he lands.
It's not all bad news, Grant. They did announce that head coach John Cooper was selected to be the Team Canada's head coach for the upcoming Four Nations face-off, as well as the 2026 Winter Olympics. So good for him. And he is one of those coaches that's top 3 and longest tenured in the league for good reason. He's won quite a few Stanley Cups in Tampa Bay. And then they also went on to acquire Jake Guentzel for a 2025 third-round pick. I hate that for Carolina. Hate it.
Here's the reload. Here's the Tampa reload, and they're going with Guentzel. Yeah, we were shocked. We were both shocked by this, right?
Good pickup for Tampa, especially like we said, with Stamkos and Sergachev walking out the door. But I don't like that for the Hurricanes.
Was this a sign and trade, or a trade and sign?
I don't believe so. That's why it was just a third, because it wasn't signed. Okay. So we'll see this sometimes where the first team will get the contract done knowing that they will move him. When you have a contract done, you can get more value in return from the team you're trading with. In this situation, Carolina didn't have a contract inked with Jake Guentzel's services for the upcoming season. That's why they only got a third-round pick. And if you recall, at the trade deadline, they gave up significantly more to get him from Pittsburgh. So
you kind of take a loss on it.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. Absolutely. Grant, we had some uniform changes out in the West Coast.
Love it.
Anaheim Ducks.
Could have let off with that.
Anaheim Ducks are reworking. They're bringing back the Robo Duck, the old school Mighty Ducks face mask that everyone knows and loves. So huge fan of that. Also, the Los Angeles Kings reworked their jerseys. Last year they had the crest. Obviously, it said LA. Now it says Kings, kind of a throwback homage to what they used to wear a couple decades ago. So, but I think good moves both franchises.
Phenomenal moves. This is an audio medium, so you can't see them. But if you're listening and you're not driving, Google both of these if you haven't seen them already. We touched on this a couple weeks ago when this was leaked. Let's start with Anaheim. Great move. We love that duck mask logo. They've been apprehensive to use it. And I never really got a clear answer why. I think it was something to do with Disney, but I'm not totally sure if that's the case. But people love this, and this is a great move. They went more orange than like eggplant color, as I'll say. And so I sent Trent a hypothetical. It was like, if you're, just aesthetically, do you take the old logo with the new colors, or the old colors, or the old colors with the D logo, not the mask logo. And in very Trent Dunn fashion, he said, neither. I want the old logo, I want the old goalie mask logo with the old colors, like Paul Kariya. And I said, Trent, that wasn't one of the options. It's one of those, when I saw the new jersey next to what they've been wearing, it's a huge upgrade. So I'm not going to split hairs on colors or like kind of how the logo like looks. There's a couple like different changes, but all in all, huge step in the right direction by the Anaheim Ducks, getting back to an identity and a brand that is so recognizable. Anaheim as a city, kind of weird. It's a suburb. No disrespect to any folks that are living there, but like it's tough to find like an identity outside of just like being close to LA, for being honest. But the Anaheim Ducks as a brand and as a look, that's recognized, and you love that.
Let the record. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Let the record show. Paul Kariya was my favorite player of all time before Gabriel Landeskog came into the league. Love Paul Kariya. Love him.
Great pick.
There's a really good documentary about him, kind of his post-concussion life after he got out of the league. Really recommend watching that.
Very powerful, very poignant.
YouTube, yeah. Great watch. Lives a very like reserved, quiet life now, surfs a lot in the SoCal area. Just a great guy.
Sick life.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's
Kings. Hold on, I want to talk Kings real quick.
Oh, go ahead.
We talked about it. Again, this is another one. When I saw the new jersey next to what they have been wearing, it really pops. It looks so much better. I kind of really didn't realize how bad the current Kings logo was until I saw it next to what they have now. It's hard to say that it's like, it's the new old logo, the throwback logo, the nostalgia logo, what they are going to wear this season. Looks just so much better than what they have been. And I think the Kings, I'm interested to hear what you think about this. The Kings branding, like prior to this change, like the shield with the LA and like the crown at the bottom. Again, once I saw it next to this new revamped old school look, really stood out as bad. I think it was only kind of like accepted because they won a couple cups with this logo, and like they got really good, in like the mid 2010s with this. So I'm interested what you think about like a team with a bad uniform or a bad logo having success in it, and you just kind of like accept it.
I mean, stick with what works. I'm a big Juju guy, right? So
yeah, I think of like Kopitar in that like shield logo, how much better he's imagine if they lifted a cup wearing this like old school look, how much better that would be.
Right. No, you make a great point. I definitely, I like the new jersey though. I do wish, talking about the Ducks, they would have somehow incorporated that old purple and teal, because I love that color, but step in the right direction. So I won't.
It's sharp. It's a good jersey. I think we could get into it as the season goes on. Obviously they got a new supplier. They're going all Fanatics. I'm very skeptical, but these two right out of the gate showing me a lot of good things.
All right, let's jump to Buffalo. The Sabres are buying out the last 3 years of Jeff Skinner's contract. That $9 million contract will give Buffalo a penalty on the salary cap of $1.4 million year one, $4.4 million year two, $6.4 million year three. Essentially, teams buy out a player. You no longer have that player's services. You are exterminating their contract, and it comes at a penalty to your cap hit. So those
players still get paid.
Yeah, players still get paid.
Yeah.
But the money comes off the books. Those penalties do, however, apply to that team's salary cap that they'll have to be flexible with as they build the roster for the 24-25 season. Jeff Skinner, I think at this point, I think he's still got a little juice left. Obviously, $9 million was way too rich for what he was giving Buffalo, especially probably the last 5 years. But at a cheaper contract right now as a free agent tomorrow, some team's going to be able to get really good value for him. I think he can still service third, fourth line role and score some timely goals when needed. He's fast.
I agree. He got a lot of hate. It wasn't his fault that Buffalo overpaid for him. You know, like it's just, we see that a lot where a guy just gets like a team just doesn't put their money in the right place, like in an efficient way. And people kind of blame the player. It's like, it's not Skinner's fault that Buffalo overpaid, but yeah, I think he's a guy, he'll find a good landing spot.
The Dallas Stars are buying out Ryan Suter, his $3.65 million contract. I'm a huge Suter guy, big staple of USA hockey. I wonder if this is the end of the road. We'll certainly find out.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll learn. Yeah.
The Philadelphia Flyers are buying out Cam Atkinson. That penalty will be $2.3 million and $1.7 million year two. Cam,
bring him home, baby.
He never seemed to find a home in Philly. He was always in the doghouse with John Tortorella, was a healthy scratch a lot of last season, which is a huge turn of events coming from his very heightened role when he was in Columbus.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, imagine playing for Torts in like two separate stints. One's usually good enough. And I say that liking Torts, but my God. Yeah, man. I mean, like Flyers, I mean, they flirted with the idea of contending this year, but that was always going to be a rebuild. And like Cam's a pro and he's a, good guy to have in the room, but like what he does well, like is better suited for a team that's going to be like competing for like playoff games and just putting the puck in the net. Yeah, he's a hard worker. I'm not saying he's not going to do the dirty work, but if you're looking to like get younger and see what your young guys can do and be a tough team to play against, like Cam was that guy for a long time in Columbus, but the game evolves and I want to see him go to a real big contender. I know I joked just saying like bring him home, but like I want to see him be able to like go for it because he can still find the back of the net for sure.
Okay. You ready for the hard hats?
We got breaking news, guys. Can I give a little breaking news?
Oh, go for it. Yeah.
The Blue Jackets team update. These are players the Jackets have extended the qualifying offer to. I will be brief with this. Cole Sillinger. Yes. Great move. Kirill Marchenko. Another great move. Kent Johnson. Yes. Jack Greaves. Big fan of Jack Greaves and Jake Christensen. These guys have been extended the qualifying offers. No surprises here. This is, a lot of the young core that we need to see this year and see what they got. Following players did not receive a qualifying offer from the club and will become unrestricted free agents on July 1st. Tyler Engel, Jake Bean, Marcus Bjork, Alex Nylander. They brought in Nylander at the trade deadline. Was kind of thinking maybe there'd be a prove it deal there, but he's out of here. In addition, the Blue Jackets have placed Adam Boqvist on unconditional waivers. If Boqvist clears waivers, the team will buy out. So we mentioned that a little earlier. That's the exact details on that. He's going to go through waivers and then be cleared. Boqvist, part of the Seth Jones trade a few years ago. Still high upside defenseman. I think there's a future for him in the league as a puck moving defenseman. But this is again kind of the team evolving a little bit here, getting some guys off the books. Which, not his fault, but
There's a couple big names for everyone to look out for tomorrow. Out of the gate, obviously we mentioned Steve Stamkos. Really interested to see what happens with Jonathan Marchessault out of Vegas.
That's a big one.
Yeah, it's huge. And they don't have enough money. So they're going to have to move pieces if they want to keep him. And he's another guy who's been a longtime staple of the Vegas franchise. Jonathan Drouin out of the Avs. Jacob Trouba out of the New York Rangers was asked to submit his list of no trade teams, essentially where he doesn't want to go, which tells you they're shopping him. They're fishing.
Yeah, you only ask for that if you want to act on it.
Not a good sign if you're looking to stay long term in New York. If I'm Jacob Trouba, so we'll see how that plays out. Grant, you ready for the hard hats of the week?
Yep.
All right, the hard hats of the week, as always, are sponsored by Leroy's Bar. Located in the heart of Worcester, Ohio, Leroy's establishment has provided cheap pitchers and a safe haven for blue-collar workers alike since 1969. Leroy's can be your hockey home for all of the NHL action. Drink responsibly and drive safe. Grant, I got one hard hat of the week, and it's kind of speculative. It's going to be whoever signs Steven Stamkos, because that's going to be a win for any franchise that gets their hands on him. He's bringing a wealth of leadership and experience. And, I still can't believe they didn't get that deal done. And it's going to be weird seeing him in different colors, but hey, maybe he'll come to Denver. I would welcome that with open arms.
Yeah, I think that's a good move. Yeah.
We can't afford him. No shot.
It's funny. So Tampa offered him what, $3 million? It'd be funny if he like accepted like 1.5.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, that's a good one. I'm gonna go. This happened just earlier today. I'm gonna go Aaron Ekblad at the Stanley Cup. They didn't have a parade, but they had like a celebration down there in Florida last year. And I like Brooks Koepka a lot. Brooks is probably my favorite golfer. Last year, Brooks Koepka was at a Florida Panthers game. Brooks is a big Panthers fan, and calling Ekblad like a traffic cone. He had a traffic cone in his box and saying how much he sucked. Ekblad today at the celebration took the podium with the traffic cone and just seemed like a guy who had probably a couple adult beverages, leaned into the mic and just said, "Fuck you, Brooks Koepka." So shout out to Ekblad for having a long memory and hold on to it. I'm a big fan of a grudge, and that's great. You know, you lift a cup, you get the laugh. Shout out to Aaron.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's going to do it.
I saw that earlier. We've had a great day of hockey here. Past the draft, the RFA stuff, Florida celebrating. I'm glad we recorded today. This has been good.
Yeah. That's going to do it here for us. We obviously keep your eyes and ears out. Going to be some big time news, a lot of movement. July 1st every year is always one of the best days of the year if you're a hockey fan, just with all the movements. There's now 32 teams that have hopes and dreams of a Stanley Cup, and all of them are valid. And this is where it starts right here. So it's a good time to hit that reset button, refresh if you had a bad season, and go for gold again next year. So this is fun times as a fan. So Grant, you got anything else?
No, man, I'm ready to roll. It's been a beautiful day in Columbus. Been a little chilly. A little bit of the wind. I can feel that fall breeze coming in. Makes me think of NHL hockey and college football. Can't wait.
Can't wait.